Once again, I just want to state that I have zero intention of talking about Gacha life. With that out of the way, it's been over 2 years since I last spoke about Gacha games and the different complexities behind them, so I figured it was high time for me to shake off the rust and pick the topic back up again. So come with me, and let's take ibuprofen together, shall we? Hello everyone, I'm DetectiveMarill, the internet's greatest detective, and welcome to my follow-up video on Gacha games. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't think I'd be down this far in the trenches that my only way of returning to content creation was following up on that shitty ass video that I made in 2022. But here we are. So, between you and I, this is what I plan to cover in today's video. Once again, I'll be giving a synopsis of what a Gacha game is, informing you about some intricacies that I missed in my previous video. I'll teach the viewer about a Gacha game's anniversary, what it should and shouldn't look like, and its importance to its community. And then I just wanted to give myself space to yap about some Gacha games that I've been playing recently. Without further ado, let's open up this investigation. In my last video, I gave a rudimentary explanation of what a Gacha game is. Still, I'd honestly like to be more verbose this time around. A Gacha game is a video game in which the main gimmick focuses on a gachapon system. For context, gachapon is a Japanese capsule machine in which you pay money to gamble for an item of a different rarity, with the chance of receiving a duplicate of an item that you might have already received. Translate this system over to a virtual game and you have the gold standard for any gacha game. Of course, it isn't necessarily that simple, but allow me to explain how it normally works. I'll use Honkai Star Rail as an example since that's one I've been playing quite a bit of recently. Within the game, there are two different main currencies, Stellar Jades and Oneric Shards. Stellar Jades can be earned free by simply playing the game, redeeming codes, or whenever they are handed out free after maintenance or special events. But there are another couple of ways of acquiring Jades, and that's through the Battle Pass, Express Supply Pass, or the premium currency, Oneric Shards. You can only acquire either of these with money, which is a limiter for anyone planning to be exclusively free to play. Continuing, however, Oneric Shards are exclusively used to acquire premium progress packs or trade them for Jades. The Jades can then be used to acquire the Gacha's subcurrency, the Star Rail Pass exclusive to the standard banner, or the Star Rail Special Pass exclusive to the limited character banners that rotate in and out on occasion. This is usually what separates a Gacha game from any other game. There are always several degrees of separation from the currencies, and it does get complicated from someone on the outside looking in. I'll use my example that I used last time I made this kind of video, but with Fortnite, you can spend your money on V-Bucks, and those V-Bucks can be used to purchase Battle Passes, skins, or Battle Pass tiers. There is no other currency that you would buy, and nothing else you can use the currency on. Meanwhile, when you roll on a banner, you can either get Undying Embers or Undying Starlight, and those also have their uses, and it's just extraneous. Now, a lot of gacha games have different subsystems for the main gacha mechanic that I'd like to go over. I'll show off a lot of the more common variations and examples of games they show up in, and then I'll go over the variations that have phased out / are mostly unpopular to use in a modern gacha game. To start, we have just the standard banner system. Everyone knows what this looks like. You've got your featured character and / or weapon lined up in a pretty fashion for everyone to see. You can pull one time or one with a 0 at the end times. Lots of gacha games tend to make slight edits to how the system works here and there, but for the most part, it all remains the same. Some examples of games that use this system include basically every gacha game that ever has existed. Still, just to list a few, we have Honkai Star Rail, Epic 7, Genshin Impact, and Reverse 1999. Next up is the classic step-up banner. Pulling on these banners starts off cheap with the amount of items you receive along with the price increasing over time. Usually the lower tiers of these step-up banners are locked off after you reach the highest one, or the banner becomes unavailable after that. I will be the first to say that I'm not a big fan of this system, but for no reason in particular. Yeah, no reason. Some examples of games that utilize this system include Bleach Brave Souls, Dragon Ball Legends, and Nikke Goddess of Victory. Keeping the gacha system train chugging along, we have the redraw system. This one is pretty straightforward. Take that standard system and allow the player the chance to re-roll that entire pull they just did. Some games allow a certain amount of chances, or allow them to mark one down and re-roll again. Then pick between the two. Examples of games that use this are Jujutsu Kaisen, Phantom Parade, Epic 7, and The Alchemist Code, which unfortunately shut down a while back. Now I want to comment on a gacha system that doesn't exist anymore, but it's interesting to think about how it even existed in the first place. The complete gacha system was to gacha games how action figures still are today. Pull on a banner to collect pieces of the desired items, but the amount that you could get could significantly decrease the more you pulled on that banner. I don't think I am the only one who shares the sentiment that it is incredible how long that system even lasted, even if it was for a little bit. If it wasn't for the Consumer Affairs Agency banning this in 2011, we could still possibly have this system today. There's a lot that could be touched on about the system and the ban on it, but I'll leave an article linked that goes over it in a lot more detail than I will in this video, so feel free to take a gander on it if you're ever interested. Unfortunately, I cannot find any examples of any games that truly utilized it, but take my word for it that it was a problem. And there we go. I think I've done my due diligence in explaining a gacha game and some of the weird intricacies that are involved with them. It's not to say that there's not more that I could comment on either, but if I just wanted to talk on just gacha game systems and nothing else, this would be called the Gacha Game Iceberg Explained or something of the sort. Though someone has definitely already made that, and if not, there's a free market out there, gang. I do have a whole video to continue making, however, so let's proceed. You never really know how popular a video game will or won't be. But while some games can afford to be unpopular, gacha games just don't have that same kind of luxury. Seeing as the entire model of a gacha game is to be free and make money, if a gacha game is unpopular, that means the resources being used to make them need to be reallocated, and the game will see its eventual shutdown. I mean, just within 2023, over 100 gacha games have seen their end of service be reached. So I would say it's quite a big deal when a gacha game hits a big milestone. Whether it be 6 months, a year, or even more, is an amazing step in the right direction for the game and an even bigger testament to the health of that game moving forward. So when those milestones are reached, what's the game's way of saying thank you? By celebrating those anniversaries, baby! A gacha game's anniversary is quite a simple thing to understand. Hey, we've been around for this long? Holy crap, thank you for sticking with us, and they throw a huge bash to celebrate. The teams that sit behind their games truly do care about making their game work for them and their audience. They may be there to make money, yes, but so are many other games that are out there. There are countless developers, composers, producers, writers, marketers, and more that sit behind these games for countless hours to put their gacha game on the ever-expanding market. And when they've created a product that has withstood the test of time, what more can they do but celebrate? Now, how do they usually tackle these anniversaries? Every gacha game is undeniably different, but it usually involves a ton of free rewards for you, the player, and a ton of new players for them, the creators. Anniversaries are not only great ways for concurrent players to gather resources and build up their accounts, but it's also a great way for new players to get an easy head start on a gacha game they've considered playing for a while, but just haven't gotten around to. I guarantee you a ton of gacha games gain a considerable chunk of their players during this time if they last long enough, so always look out for a gacha game that's having their anniversary if you ever want a slice of that sweet reward pie. Now I do have a few comments on some anniversaries that I think have really done it right, and that have really missed the mark, so let's address the good before the grim. One that really had my heart and attention recently was Epic 7's 6th anniversary. In my last video on this subject, I made a big deal about glazing this game, and I can confidently say that the glaze was justified for all of the time that I spent on it. This event, they did the standard login for free reward stuff, stamina buffs, increased rates on materials, etc. Obviously very generous buffs to the player's gain on everything. But then, they introduced the Epic Dash event, possibly the most insane way to appreciate the entire player base to a whole new level. How it worked was for a certain amount of weeks, they assigned us, the players, missions to complete that would offer us experience for the week. The max level every week was 30, and after that, you would unlock the next week. But every level you got correlated to a reward that you could buy if you were feeling lazy, of course. The big rewards for this event were free 5-star heroes and free equipment that you could throw on those heroes if it fit well enough within their kit. But it was still great equipment that you could use either way. Plus, the Epic Dash event lined up in harmony with extra increases in experience gain, material gain, and more free characters, meaning that this was the most productive and abundant anniversary period that Epic 7 has ever seen, and it's hard to see how they'll top themselves in the near future. However, I really feel like there's a bit to be said about Genshin Impact's 4th anniversary. Woefully, besides the free standard 5-star selector and the free weapons, there isn't much to say about their big annual event. It's not to say that they aren't being generous. Free primo gems across the board, the free character, and the 3 free weapons are great to receive. But alas, that's a little too standard of an anniversary tradition to do, especially since their anniversary hasn't really changed much since their first one. I'm also not trying to insinuate that Hoyoverse and the team that is working on Genshin aren't grateful at all for everything that this game has done for them and the company as a whole. Sadly, it's a little hard to focus on their gratitude while discounting the multitude of issues and controversies that Genshin has been involved with within the last, year. I mean, Natlan as a whole, the idea of a boycott, and I say idea because people just don't know how boycotting works, the issue of colorism and racism within Genshin, the absolute separation within the treatment of the Chinese player base versus the global player base. It's not to say that Epic 7's anniversary wasn't preceded by issues, especially on the scare that the Chinese player base was being overcompensated while being a new source of players. But it was clear that Smilegate wanted to accommodate their new player base, showing them that they care and hope they stick with them. Of course they are going to try hard to get them to stay with Epic 7, especially since China is such a big market to dip into. Genshin Impact had already gained the favor of the Chinese market and was started there, so it wasn't terribly hard for them to do so. Seeking equal treatment is a fair reason to complain, and it became very clear that the treatment wasn't equal when at the same time the western side of the community complained about the lack of melanin in Genshin. The entire community was compensated 1600 primo gems because the Chinese side of the community complained about Noivellette having a bug patched. Not saying they have their priorities, but they definitely do. And I know that Genshin and Honkai Star Rail have different directors, but the fact that the HSR accounts recently announced a free 1600 Stellar Jades and 5-star selector for basically no reason is absolutely insane. This is literally the exact equivalent of what Genshin gave out for their anniversary for simply having a new fucking update. Thus, that's all my comments on anniversaries and the like. I had a lot of comments on the matter and I felt it necessary to talk about this considering all the lingering thoughts I've had on the matter of their importance. Since there's no more to sift through in this case file, how about we look through the last one, shall we? I have one last bit of yapping to do before closing this video out. Undoubtedly, if I'm making a video on gacha games, I would be playing a few, so I just wanted to talk to y'all about what I've been up to in the past few years when it comes to gacha games. I do understand that some of the momentum of this video came to a halt at this point, but just bear with me, alright? I promise I can make this somewhat interesting enough for you. Let's begin by addressing the fact that it's been well over 2 years since I made my last gacha game video, so clearly I've been playing so many new and unique gacha games, right? Right, guys? Okay, so I've done a lot of observing the market and researching many different gacha games as they come and go, but I will admit that I tend to stick to what I know I'll enjoy. I do remember saying that I would never play Nikke when it was released, and for a good while I avoided it. Until they tossed 2B in my face last year, and I must have been a fish the way I bit the bait. Now, I'm not going to say I gave it much time. I put a good 10 hours into the game and called it a day. That game is actually a lot more complicated than most outsiders would give it credit for, and the system is actually pretty intriguing if you ignore the butt cheeks jiggling in your face for a couple of seconds. But other than that, I probably won't play again. Also, let's address the biggest elephant in the room. I did a slight bit of glaze on this game before, but now my glazometer is about to explode because I really want to talk about Honkai Star Rail. I've unfortunately started playing it around the summer 2024 and haven't set the game down for quite a while. As someone who was a big fan of Honkai Impact 3rd before this game, it's not hard to see why Honkai is Hoyoverse's favorite child through and through. The amount of love and care in this game's story and content is immeasurable. I mean, I just recently finished Penacony, aka Pikakony, aka I'm impressed this game's story managed to top itself yet again. I mean to say that some reveals literally had me hopping out of my seat for joy, and that says a lot. I'm not going to pretend like I didn't start playing on day one and then quit because I accidentally started my progress on the wrong account, which resulted in me losing the wealth that I fought so hard to get. Plus, the fact that the game didn't immediately release on PS5 meant that I couldn't just play it on there. Couple that with the fact that college was coming up for me and I didn't want to play on my phone or crappy laptop at the time meant that I just wasn't even trying. Fast forward to the announcement of the Fate Stay Night collab and my new awesome laptop, and you know what that means? I'm in it to win it, baby. I really hope that this game can keep me as engaged as it has until Q3 2025, because I am most definitely pulling for E6 Saber. I've recently made a slight return to Cookie Run Kingdom after dropping the game a bit unexpectedly. They still don't fully have me yet since I've forgotten to log in for a few days now, but trust me, I'll probably get back to it. Other games I've made comebacks to include Project Sekai and Dragon Ball Legends. It's hard to imagine that I even dropped the game for a bit when I gave it a ton of praise in my previous video, but they just couldn't keep me engaged and I felt like I was having less fun. Especially when the game blew up on TikTok, bringing the level of difficulty in PvP up like 1,000 times fold. Still better than Dokkan Do. Do not fight me. Have fun trying to pop the best line of bubbles to get your way into a job interview, bozo. I haven't been waiting for many gacha games, but I would love to know what the status of us in the West getting Persona 5 The Phantom X is. I remember my initial excitement turns to a grimace at the announcement of this game, and it's mostly because it was revealed that there would be released and distributed in China, but there was no mention of it in any other regions. Which really makes you raise an eyebrow or two, or even 3 if you're feeling like it. I don't understand the idea of a gacha game being exclusive to one region if it's based on a franchise that is so popular to the rest of the world, but I reckon that's how most gacha games are before their global release anyways. It's me again, internationally the internet's greatest detective, DetectiveMarill. Where do I even begin? Basically, Persona 5X was announced to be releasing globally around a month ago. Not too sure. This is why you don't sit down on videos that you have been producing for a while, because then you have information that becomes old. I will not speak on that any further, however. I will let the past version of me that did this video explain that later. See ya. I've been meaning to try Zenless Zone Zero, but that would be yet another Hoyoverse game that eats away at part of my brain, and I have neither the strength of character nor the storage of laptop to play it at the moment. Also, can we just talk about how Hoyo went full Gooner with this game? Nothing but jiggling, boinging, and bouncing galore. The most recent piece of media I've seen for the game was the Jane Doe Gooner bait where she sticks her foot, no shoe, in your face within the first few seconds. Is that not crazy, gang? I guess that's par for the course for the average gacha game, so you know what? I hope you're eating well out there. Well, I think that's all of the space that I needed for random yammering. I clearly hate gacha games, despise them dearly, and would never want to touch a gacha game without the assistance of a 2-foot pole. Nah, I'm just pulling your leg, but what have y'all been playing? Tell me about your progress in the comment section, if anyone is even watching this video up to this point. Let's close this case up, however. I think I've done enough sifting for tonight. Thank you all for sticking with me through this case. I believe that we have all learned quite a bit about what a gacha game is, and how they operate, and have determined the importance of a gacha game's anniversary and the impact that they hold not only for their community, but for the market as a whole. I guess you also got to listen to me yap about gacha games on a more personal level, but that's neither here nor there. Now that there's not a bit of script for me to read here, hey guys, it's been quite a little bit since I've posted a video. I'll have my last video right on the screen, or right here. It's not to say that I haven't been working behind the scenes or anything, but within the past couple of years almost, it's been a little bit since I've done anything related to YouTube, and that's no fault of yours or mine. It's just been kind of impossible for me to work as fluidly as I would have wanted to, especially since the Doki Doki Literature Club video has sucked all creativity from me in terms of editing and other stuff. But I've been practicing my skills here and there. I've been working on learning new things, and I've also gotten way older. When I had posted my Fortnite like clips video, I was only 18 and just barely started college, and now I'm 20. That's a weird thing to think about. I've had this channel since about 9th grade of high school, so I was like 14. Yeah. This channel's been around for quite a while, and eventually it'll be around. It'll be old, is what I'm saying. But I am thankful for everybody that will be here and will be watching this video, and hopefully if I bring some new people around, that'll be cool too. But yeah, that's really been about it. I've just been drained. It's been kind of weird, but I'm hoping this video will get me back on track, get me back to making videos again, and all of that other fun stuff. But, like I said earlier, let's chat about gacha games in the comments. I'm always curious. I don't tend to use my socials very often, but feel free to reach out to me on any of the ones in the description. Thank you for watching, and as always, it's been elementary, my dear Watson.